Oh.
Are you sure?
Yeah. We're live.
Does it work? Hello, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you should have played What Is Love.
Someone shoot me in my faulty. I need to see if it's our production's on point. Hello. Thank you guys, and welcome to our.
Yeah. Sorry, we had to remake because they remade in the LCS, so now we're back.
Okay,
We're back.
We're back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is post league time, hosted by me and MarkZ, which is no longer here. This is the
No longer here.
Oh,
he's dead.
He will
has
be
died.
arriving shortly. In the meantime, this is our post league time show. Post league time
PPLT.
show. Yes, with me and Josh. So Josh, why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? I'm Josh Zell Kim. I am a co-host for the post league time show, and I also work on the production here. So anything that messes up, is
anything that
directly
just
my
messed
fault.
up, like for instance,
Actually,
the audio.
Yet again, this is Mark's fault. He unplugged his computer last night, so I had to restart the stream because I had to rehook up the mic. So that's why we had to.
Yeah, everything in the end is Mark's
It's
fault.
always Mark's fault.
So for people who don't realize, Mark has to be late because he does the analyst desk for essentially 2 of the 3 days, and those are the 2 days that we shoot the show.
Yeah.
So until he gets here, me and Josh kind of sit on the couch, let you guys know what's up. We talk about life.
Yeah, we just talk about whatever. I mean, the big thing, obviously, is that last series. Which, by the way, okay, so this show is starting so late because of that remake.
Oh, God.
Or remake.
I looked at the time, I was like, we're going to go till at least 9 p.m. It's
Yeah.
what I think. So today's games, I felt bad for watching them. Like, it's because I only really want to talk about the last series. Like, the last series,
course.
it's a series that I'm like, give me an hour. Give me like a whiteboard. I'm gonna show you some diagrams. They could have done this maneuver over here, and this is what they did. Like stuff like that, But instead, I have to talk about why Dig and Envy were.
Yeah, it's like
a close series. And,
it's like you're doing calculus, and then you look at the other games, and you're doing like arithmetic. Like 2 + 2.
But I can't. But I actually do have some interesting things to say about the games. But before we get to that, that's gonna be when Mark gets here.
Yep.
We're just chilling.
We're just hanging out, having a good time. Hopefully no production errors.
Oh, and one last thing is at the end of the show on Sunday nights, we also do a weekly power rankings for the team. Yep. These are more casual power rankings. We typically just do them for like conversational purposes to just start conversation. Usually have the best discussions when the power rankings are going on.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm really excited to rank a lot of these teams. Some of these teams might be lower than you expect. And some of these.
What?
No, dude. I was gonna say TL, but you know what? Maybe them as well. And some of the teams may be a lot higher than you expect. So join us for the whole show. But if you can't make that, we're doing the power rankings at the very end.
We also added a new feature today.
Oh, our production expert added a brand new feature never before seen.
It took 1 whole minute to make this up. We have a Mark timer, so we'll know exactly how late Mark is every week, in every episode.
So we can have like a little bit of a competition. Will Mark be later this week than he is last week?
Yeah.
We decided that this level of production is what the show really needs.
Yeah. Ooh, shout outs to BoxBox, your shirt.
Oh yeah. He gave me this shirt and he's like, wear it on stream. And I'm like, you really think I'm gonna do that? And I've worn it on. It's a free shirt. If you're in esports and you give you a pro player like free stuff, they will wear it at some point. You don't even have to tell them. But oh, dude, Jinx used to give all the pro players free stuff, and you would just see them wear like non-stop Jinx stuff because it's just free, and
Yeah.
I like free stuff.
We're not sponsored by BoxBox. We're actually BoxBox PTL.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm just saying, I just like free stuff. What can I say? Everyone likes free stuff.
That's true. Everyone loves free stuff. You sell out.
I'm not even gonna.
You guys can call him a sellout. It's okay. We can fill up chat with sellout.
Every 10 minutes he's late, he takes off something. I'm
Ooh.
good. No, we're not gonna turn. This is a PG. Not really.
It's like PG-13.
Really?
We like swear,
You
but
said
we don't go
heroin last
I don't know.
week.
I think mild drug references still are PG-13.
Okay, so
it's T for teen, guys.
This is a PG-13 stream, so this is teenager friendly. I guess not maybe kid friendly.
Yeah. Put your kids away, guys. It's late. It's a Sunday night. They've got school tomorrow morning. They shouldn't be watching this show anyways.
Yeah.
We're a late night host thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the type of show
It's like the Scarra MarkZ.
Yeah, you take out like a drink late at night. For me personally, that'd be water. For you, it could be something else. And then you sit down.
Knows what's in
you
this
sit
cup?
down on your couch, you take off your pants, and that's the show. That's how you watch our show. So I hope you guys are doing that right now.
You're saying that everyone who's watching should take their pants off. Okay, gotcha.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you just did. You said you took your pants off.
That's not.
You just told Chad to take their pants off.
That's not the implication. I'm just saying that's just how most people watch the show.
I hope not. Anyways, so yeah, today's games though, I was like kind of interested in the other games, but obviously that last series was just like way better than anything else. Like, what were you saying in the elevator? You're like the other series are not what you watch League of Legends for.
Yeah. I don't know. You get pretty spoiled by series like FlyQuest, because I think they're like really, really good. Apparently, I'm supposed to watch.
Oh wait, Lemon's Twitter. What's going on Lemon's Twitter?
Jensen promised he would play Assassin v Assassin to high before the series, but he bitched out. That's actually so funny.
Damn.
Dude, that's actually so
That's
funny.
so BM.
Dude, just because of that, dude, FlyQuest #1 on the power rankings, and I'm going to be like, because Jensen doesn't keep his word.
Jensen has no honor. We heard it here first.
That's actually so funny, dude. That's why they blind picked Zed, dude. They came to a gentleman's agreement, and Jensen was like,
no,
you're the gentleman, I'm the guy who DDoSes, and just whips out Zillion.
Holy moly, Jensen.
Dude, honestly, I respect that, dude. Anything for the win. Anything for the win.
I mean, the C in C9 stands for cheat, I guess,
Holy shit. My goodness.
Holy moly. Well, what do I even say after that?
I mean, we just keep going on with our lives,
No one asked you, Miles.
So, for people who don't know, our current studio setting is actually just Josh and Mark's apartment.
Yeah.
So we have fancy studio lights, which we bought at the cheapest price possible, and we have Miles as our background noise, which is their third roommate.
He's like the guy in Sesame Street, those guys in the theater who like talk shit from the top of the balcony. You know what I'm saying?
He's like the person that's not officially credited in the production, but like he exists in a lot of our shows. But I will say though, that pause is really interesting because I don't know if the damage went through or not. I looked at it, it felt like MF didn't do full damage, and then they replayed it, and then Mazhar got exhaust and a void lane out, and it still didn't fully kill him through the channels, so I wasn't super sure. I think it was a little bit bugged, and it did like maybe 20% less damage than it should have.
Yeah, Muppets, Sesame Street, whatever. You guys are freaking nerds.
But
they
confirmed it did full damage? I don't know.
It didn't do full damage.
Yeah. Oh, the visual bug and okay. So that's what they remade.
I see. Well, I thought it was really cool that they have that tool or whatever that lets them start right from the point of before the bug.
Yeah, I think that's like, I don't want to say groundbreaking technology. I said groundbreaking technology on my Twitter, but I'm going to tone it back a little bit. It's technology that has been in other games for a long time.
Yeah.
And now League of Legends decided to take it and name it their own. It's now the...
Did they call it something?
Yes, they called it...
something tool, right?
Something like deterministic... disaster recovery tool. So it was like, they just threw some names on it, and it literally just means that they got a tool to be able to rewind.
Wait, that's actually the craziest name for something. Deterministic disaster.
I thought it was really, really smart of Xyrene to just call it Chrono Break. I'm like, oh, that's genius.
Zillions in the game. Rewind the time. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really smart. But, I mean, aside from that, I don't know. I don't know. Do you think that remake should have happened from fully, or do you think from that point was like the perfect thing?
I mean, considering that thing exists, right? Like, I think that changes how pauses are going to work in the future, right? Like, if can you imagine, like, you go back to like Season 3 Worlds? Do you remember that time where like they had that like 2 hour
pause? I like
to
forget because I was there on site for that.
Yeah,
and it took a long time.
Yeah, it took I think over two hours or something, right? And it's like I forgot who was playing at the time, but there was some
World
sort
Elite
of
versus CLGEU. I remember very distinctly because
I thought you tried to forget.
It's been a running joke for CLGEU that their game time length is the longest of any possible team in the world.
And that's how the whole Silver Scrapes thing started too, because they just had Silver Scrapes running on repeat for an hour. And that's why people were like, "Oh my god, I love this song." I don't know. I listened to the song. Silver Scrapes is alright. Like, I don't think it like. I don't go driving at night and being like, yeah, you know what I want to listen to? Silver Scrapes, baby. I'm not at the club.
I think that it's cool that they made something like out of nothing. You know, they didn't have a thing for best of fives, and then suddenly like this was their hype song.
Yeah,
I thought that's just like culture like forming around something, and I kind of created it, but I think it's cool that everyone ended up embracing it. I saw someone ask to wait for the Q&A session for discussion about Coach of the Split. We only do Q&As on Saturday because on Sunday we have our really long talks about the power ranking list. But I can already tell you that I don't really like talking about Coach of the Split discussions. A lot of it is because unless you specifically work with coaches, it's very, very difficult for you to be for you to know what they do. You know, even if they weren't win first in the split or any of that stuff, the best you could do is like, you know, they're doing a good job, but you don't personally know what they do. Like the only coach I could really comment on is Tony, because I've worked with Tony in the past, but that was like 2 years ago. Maybe now he's evolved, he's become a lot better with it. I'm sure he has. And so any kind of comments I could say about them are like, okay, they're not that good. The only thing you can really say about coaching is like maybe analyze their drafting phase.
Yeah.
But even from that standpoint, like a lot of times coaches are limited through draft because they fight players for certain things. And, you know, in the perfect world, the coach would be the smartest person on the team, the best drafter, and all the players can play every champion equally. But that very rarely is the case, and so you'll get into situations where like, okay, well, sometimes as a coach you have to make the best of a bad situation, and it makes the draft look bad, but I wouldn't blame the coach necessarily completely for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, esports hasn't gotten to the level of traditional sports, where traditional sports, your coach has full 100% control of everything, right? Like, so like if you know, we have Bill Belichick of the Patriots and he's like, we are running this play, the team is running that play, the receiver isn't going to be like, nah, I don't feel like it, you know? That'd be like the equivalent of like a coach telling you know, a top lane like, you have to play Poppy here, and the guy's like, no, I want to play Fiora.
Additionally, coaches have way more responsibility in a lot of real sports. Like, there's a lot of situations where, you know, if the team does bad, the coach gets fired instantly. And the coach takes all the blame. And that's stuff that doesn't super apply in esports a lot of times, because you can personally see, oh, well, like, Darshan played this series really bad. Like, you don't blame the coaches for his poor play.
Right.
But sometimes, like, real sports, you'd be like, why didn't you sub this guy out, like, fast enough? You should have seen him playing bad. It was your decision to do that. But I understand that there's a lot of differences in times of gameplay. You can't sub out a bad performing player. So maybe there is just never going to be the point where coaches are going to be able to be, like, at that level. Right.
Yeah. Wait, why are people just telling us to go to everyone's Twitter? What's going on now? C9 Jack's Twitter, what's going on there? I'm gonna look this up. Keep the people entertained, dude.
What? Of course I will. How surprised are you by how well Balls played? I think Balls is a good player. Like, I think he can do his job, and he does his job on his team very well.
Nothing. There's literally nothing. You guys are trolls.
It's just that I don't think Balls is like a top laner in the region. But I think he's what me and Mark call as a role player. He fulfills his designated role on the team well, like above average, to the point where they can win with it. And he very rarely makes too many mistakes outside of that. In fact, he's like just a very solid player. He's similar to like Zig from P1, who fulfills doesn't really get much pressure early, except for in very rare circumstances, and it fulfills his job at being able to do like a frontline damage or being able to be like whatever role he's on.
Yeah, and that's important, right? Like, you want you like every player, every person on a team doesn't need to be the star player to be good in their role, right?
Yeah, and in fact, usually having that many star players is like a detriment.
Yeah.
There's only so many resources that can go to certain players. Like, if you have star players in every position, one star player still has to play like, you have to be the frontline tank role that's not going to get pressure, because we need to snowball these two lanes.
Yeah.
And it's just a trade-off. It's nice to be able to be flexible, but sometimes it's just difficult to be able to play. Wait, let me rephrase it. Sometimes being like a good role player isn't a bad thing for your team.
Well, it's honestly, I'm going to make an NBA reference here, but the Miami Heat, when they had LeBron, they had, oh my God, I don't even remember now. But they basically signed a bunch, like a trio of star players, and they just like couldn't figure out how to use them for a while. Like, they
it
sucked
took like
for
a couple of years.
Yeah,
right?
They got into a groove later in the season, but it's just hard when you have all these players who want all the resources, right? I think that's really applicable to League of Legends, where like, you can't just give like your mid laner all the
Dwayne Wade and
And Bosch. That's right. Yeah. When they had that trio, it was tough because like all of them want the ball, all of them want to score, but you know, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can only score so many points in a game.
When we talk about traditional sports, I feel like people who watch traditional sports just look at us and judge us really deeply. They're just like
freaking nerds talking about sports. You don't know anything
they're just like,
sports.
you guys don't know anything, dude.
Yeah.
I personally work with like
with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade,
and it definitely was not like that. Like, let me tell you, this is the offensive decision that I came to. I'm actually the offensive coordinator for the team. And, like, that's how it seems sometimes. I can understand.
All right, all you guys are freaking experts in sports. Whatever.
When people judge like League of Legends, and I like read some comments, I'm just like, that's definitely not how it works. Dude, trust me, I used to be a coach. It works exactly like this. You guys are idiots.
What, you mean every time you like go and open Reddit, that happens every time?
Sometimes, you know. I don't want to say Reddit's always wrong, because I think that's just like a running joke. But like, I find that Reddit's really good at identifying problems.
Yeah.
And everyone can identify problems.
Yeah.
Like I always think that there's a lot of ways to problem solve, but the most important is to be able to execute your
solution.
Your solution.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
It's the easiest thing to say that's wrong, but if you can't say why that's wrong and how to fix it, then that opinion actually doesn't mean anything.
So like a good example is like, okay, so Envy is probably the last place team in the league. Why are they bad? Oh, so with statements I could say right now that you'll see on Reddit, wow, Envy is a terrible team. They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
They have no
individually not good.
They have no idea what they're doing after the laning phase.
Yeah.
And I would agree with a lot of those statements.
Yeah, of course.
But it's like, okay, well, what does that exactly mean? Like, what is that's like the very shallow analysis. And like when you get deeper, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're getting leads with their jungler early game in like half the situations, but like they really don't know how to do anything except for occasionally Seraph TP flanks in like if the enemy overcommits, you know, stuff like that. So their AD struggling to be able to find initiation, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so what do they need to do? Maybe they need to have their AD be more decisive and be in the flash ulti more, similar to how TL used Piglet to do that in their series against C9 this week.
Yeah.
And that's like the harder stuff. You know, it's so easy to look at a team and be like, wow, they suck, dude. They're so bad. If I was playing on this team, I probably would if I was playing on a team, we get the same result. That's like the best comment. I always love reading those.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we already saw Lemon's tweet. We saw that Hyde kept up his end of the bargain, and Jensen did not. Maybe there's people who, you know, just joined in late, but we'll tell you what's happening right now. You'll say it. PLT.
Oh.
That's what's happening right now.
Oh, I was going to be like, wait, I thought you were going to say
no,
okay. So for people who are joining us late, we are in the pre-show for Post-League Time. Post-League Time is a show where we analyze the LCS games. We use the big brains of myself and MarkZ, who's currently not here, not him, to be able to break down the games and try to teach you guys or like tell you guys what we think happened. Unfortunately, since Mark works at the LCS on these days, we have to commonly wait for Mark to arrive. On Sundays, he tends to arrive much quicker. So currently, there's
He's actually on his way already.
Yeah, he's on his way right now. There's a MarkZ timer somewhere on the stream. It's like at the bottom left. Bottom right.
This way.
It's on the bottom left of the stream.
Bottom right. It's our bottom left because we're facing the camera.
Okay, it's on the bottom right. And so hopefully you'll be here within 10 minutes.
I thought you had the big brains. Come on, that's why you're the analyst.
I've never been good with like stage left and stage right. So like, it's like
I'm just calling you out.
I'm just saying.
You're just making excuses. That's okay. I'm just rude today. All right.
But yeah, MarkZ is on his way. As soon as he steps through those doors, we'll make our introductions and then we'll jump right into the games.
Yep. And of course, today is Sunday, which means it's Power Ranking Day. Did you hear them do that during Wild Turtle's like 1,000th kill or whatever? They had this ready for like at least a week in advance, like last week, where they were prepared to have these air horns go off during broadcast when Wild Turtle finally hit his 1,000. So if you guys actually haven't watched that game, watch TSM's game where Wild Turtle gets the 1,000th kill. They announce it and like they just go nuts on the air horns.
I kind of wish in that series like. You know how there's commonly awards given to people who have like who do like certain things.
I feel like the Flame Horizon.
If they hit like 1,000 kills in a competitive season, they should get something for that. You know, maybe like a small. a small memorabilia, little plaque, be like,
That's true, actually.
the 1,000th kill from Turtle, and he'd be standing up, and then someone would present. Mark Merrill would stand up and be like, Turtle,
Here's a medal.
You've done a great job. No, I mean, it can't be a medal because that's what they get for Worlds. It can't be a ring because
right.
I feel like only winners get rings.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. What should I get? Like
it should be like a little plaque or like
some
a little trophy,
sick
right?
shoes.
It should be like
some Nike Boosts.
Yeah, dude. Maybe we throw some Yeezys at him.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Oh God. Yeah, I don't know. Because like other sports do that, right? Like why wouldn't they have like a kill of the month or something? You know, like they do that in soccer. They call it like the golden goal or whatever, like the best like goal of the year or whatever. Oh. And they have awards for who got the most goals during the year. So they call it like de Oro something.
Yeah, I'm just saying it'd be cool if there were more prizes. It'd be like
a car. Yeah, they should get a car.
Afterwards, they could just be like, Turtle, you've done a great job. How do you feel about receiving this award? And then you hand them like,
great, but I still lost that game against P1.
Yeah. I mean, but that's like, I just think it looks cool, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
Ballon d'Or, yeah. See, I got Puskas. That's the goal one. See, again, I don't know enough about sports, so.
This guy talking about soccer has no idea what he's talking about.
I actually, you know, I don't. I used to be a big sports fan. I went to USC for college, and USC is traditionally a very football-heavy school, and so I used to keep up with sports. But then, as soon as I graduated from college and I started to work in like the video game sphere, I just don't watch sports at all. Like
I'm in the exact same way. I was in Texas A&M, and my roommate was like the biggest football fan ever.
Yeah.
And so he got me way into it. He was just like he's like our recruiting class. Look at these people. These guys have potential. I'd be like, how do you know that from like 2 years out? He's like, no, trust me. These are the guys we're looking at. I think they're doing a great job. And I'm just like, okay, dude, I trust you. And I would go to all the games with him. And as soon as college was done for me, I don't even have cable. I don't watch any television. I just watch league. I watch league events, personal streams, and I watch a little bit of fighting game tournaments because I think they're really cool.
Yeah, fighting game tournaments are sick. EVO's actually like one of the sickest events ever. University of Spoiled Children. There's also University of Second Choice. Dude, I've heard it all. Come on. My favorite one was when we would play against like UCLA kids and we'd say stuff like don't ruin your life because their mascot is a Bruin. Don't ruin your life, bro.
But I never got like, I don't know. For me, it was like cool, but then now I'm just like fully in the digital sphere.
Yeah. Shout out to all my boys who love Melee. That is my favorite game in the world.
That game sucks ass.
Melee is the best game in the entire universe. So, Mark is finally here. Oh wait, we gotta check the timer.
Finally. Oh, we timing me now?
Yeah,
I had to do so good this time. I talked to like Xell for like 2 minutes, and that's all I did. Okay.
All right, it's 25 minutes. It took 25 minutes.
Welcome.
Wait, from what? Like the end of the game or from
yes,
like
the end of the game.
Oh wait, that's so good.
All right,
that's so good.
Hello guys, welcome to Post League Time with me and Mark Zimmerman. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself? Because
Hello, I am MarkZ. MarkZ.
And what do you do, Mark?
I talk about League of Legends way too much.
Gotcha. I do too, and we're here to talk about League of Legends with you guys. So we're going to go over the games, do our power rankings at the end. Let's just hop into it. What's the first set?
First set, Josh has his Fox.
Cheating.
Fox versus TSM. No, I have it right here in my notes. Fox versus TSM. TSM got crushed 2-0 in this set. Kind of surprised. I mean, Echo Fox, basically both games had strong leads on them, and it actually didn't look that close.
No, okay, the first game I kind of threw away, because the first game they did some really, when Bjerg was 1-0, everything else failed. I thought that
right.
Echo Fox, this is a really good kind of evolution of Echo Fox over the period of the split, improvement. And so I think of Echo Fox as like, before, you just look at their first Singe game, they ran Singe like the very first week, and it looked terrible. Like, Looper didn't know what he was doing. He didn't work well with his jungler. His TP sucked. All that stuff. Now, though, you look at what he does. He like pressures. He knows exactly when to proxy. As he proxies, he runs into the jungle afterwards. He misses 6 waves to pressure with his jungler, to pressure Sven. And he TP's bot lane, gets a double kill. Like, they're doing great. I think that the team's really coming together, and Keith had a great series.
Keith had a good series, huge step in the right direction for him. I thought not only were they like, so Echo Fox actually has the best early game in the league by a significant margin coming into this series. And then what I liked was the way they kind of like continued to have good early game. Sometimes it feels like they just kind of like invade and fight and that's it. And that even happened a little bit this series as well. But they also played around other things like really intelligently as well. So like they had like a bot invade that went well.
And on the bot invade, like you could tell when the team started to get better chemistry together.
Right.
When like the jungle support synergy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
It used to be really important in earlier seasons, but now especially the support in the jungle walking together to place vision and to get picks is something that's really, really important.
Right. So that was really good. And then they Looper just played a lot better with his Singe, not just pushing in waves and getting ganked and killed. Like that happened once, but then he also went mid, forced the TP out.
He dove mid. And then like with Acadian, they killed top lane, was rotating. And then they
even before that, the part that I really liked, he goes mid, burns the TP out of Hanser, and then just runs back top. He's like, screw it, I don't actually need to do anything. And then they redive bottom with the TP advantage, which was super, super good. And then the one you're talking about happened a little bit after that.
Yeah, and the way I see Echo Fox right now is actually Acadian, still a monster. I think he's rookie of the split for sure.
Oh, God, we're like halfway through, dude. What did that dude? Tanks.
Okay. Assuming that we gave out the award this week,
right.
Acadia would be it by a mile.
Yeah, not even close.
But on top of that, I think Froggen's been having a great season. I always thought Froggen is a player who needs an aggressive jungler to complement him. Because by himself, he's not a superstar solo carry. But he's always needed the jungler to be able to work with him, to be able to enable him to become like the person that he is, like the great player that he is. And now that he has Acadia, who's like, for all intents and purposes, like top 3 jungle in the league, he's able to show off more of his ability and his skill. And I think that like this is the Froggen that people have been waiting to see for a while, and he's coming out in full force.
I mean, that's a big part too, but I think Looper deserves a lot of credit. Like old Echo Fox did nothing because like sure, like you don't have Acadian, and that kind of like okay, that's the big playmaker. But they also had KFO, who was so like hell-bent. I don't know the team dynamic. I don't know why it was this way, but he was so hell-bent on freezing anything. And he'd have TP advantage with a freeze, and like his team would be getting destroyed 5v4, and he'd just be sitting there not TPing it.
He'd be like the perennial split push player. He's like
He wasn't split push. He was freezing just like...
Oh, yeah, he's like Ray if Ray split pushed the whole time. Or froze the whole time.
Right, because like the difference is split push, at least like you're taking something, but he was literally sacrificing his team for that. So Looper, not that kind of player, actually coordinating decently well with the team. Obviously still like a couple like concerns, but like way, way, way better from anything compared to last
split.
And
then you see a lot of mistakes that a lot of these mid-tier teams are making, and they're like, okay, the support gets caught roaming by himself. That doesn't happen as much anymore because, you know, the jungler support are moving together. The top lane isn't coordinating well with TPs. That's starting to get a lot better with Echo Fox. Echo Fox right now, at least for me this week, was like probably the most improved team.
Right. The only part that I didn't like in almost this entire set out of them was like when they had the big lead in game 1, they put Looper top to push in, and then they tried to bait Baron with that. So they had all their pressure on the top side of the map, which is just like not...
Yeah, you just want to swap it.
Yeah, so what they did afterwards was they slopped at bottom. Looper pushes in bot wave so that Hanser has to respond. And then because you're Singe, you don't even need to use your TP advantage, just run over and like get behind them. And I think they did that later in the game. So like they showed that like even when they make mistakes, they're not old Echo Fox, where they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Because like once they took the bad fight off the first play, they swapped to the right lane assignments in the second one, and they're able to convert on a real play.
The thing that people don't realize is like you go into every game with a plan. Every team does, but your plan will commonly be wrong, or there'll be more aspects of the plan you didn't account for at the start of the game.
Right.
The mark of a good team is a team that's able to adapt as the game progresses. So they're like, okay, splitting top doesn't work. We're gonna switch and do this. And so teams that are able to readjust in the middle of the game are the teams that are able to become good because they constantly improve even while during the game. And so that's what Echo Fox has kind of been showing us.
Right. You got to watch how people team fight because sometimes it's like, oh, we have a lot of dive. Let's dive the back line. But like that's actually not the best play because like, you know, your AD carry super fed and he can't get involved in the fight. So like front line normally. Like there's a lot of different ways to play situations and a lot of teams don't get it right the first time. And the fact that Echo Fox improved over game 1 was super impressive.
All right. Let's talk about TSM. I don't want to keep talking about Echo Fox. We could literally sing praises all night. What about TSM? I could...
Yeah, why don't you kick it off? Because you sound like you have something on the tip of your tongue.
I just thought they played bad. Like,
yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Because usually I could be like, oh, you know, Sven underperformed. But like, he like, the second game, I thought he, like, is even able to, like, put pressure after he died. Like, he was able to get first tower, get the double kill bot lane. And it just felt like they didn't work together. It just feels like everything's really off. Like their bot lane's losing consistently in lane, and it just felt like the team itself just played really poorly.
I think the team didn't play well. Like, yeah, Sven had a good early game for getting killed in his own jungle. He continued to force around bottom, make plays. That was nice. But I didn't really like their comp. It was super physical damage heavy, where it's like you have Shen for your magic damage and then Zyra, and that's it. And like, I mean, Biofrost just built like straight damage, which I mean a lot of Zyras do anyways. But it just felt like if they had Elise there, I would have liked their comp a lot better.
Was that in game 2?
This was game 2 because they have Jace, Lee Sin, and Varus, and then they have Zyra Shen. So they just are like super physical damage heavy. Like Shen is not magic damage. Like anyone who thinks Shen does magic damage is like, what, you want your Shen hitting their tank who has 300 armor to punish that like itemization?
Well, I thought I could always blame the draft. Like draft could always be better. And in this situation, I think the draft definitely played a part. However, I just didn't like their level of play. Like they looked a lot worse than they did prior. And so, like even looking at the first game, like I don't even know if Bjergsen hit an ulti, like in the Oreo, the whole game, like actually at all. And if you saw how desperate they were, they did the bush camp and they lost their entire mid lane. I was just like, excuse me? And up, like you can win the game from that. Like, your comp skills pretty well. The hardest thing for the enemy comp to do is break the base. Yeah. And then they just like gave it to him on a silver platter, tried to flank, and what did they do? Maokai flashed on Keith, Froggy ghost flashed and ulti Keith on Ori, and then everyone died on their team because that's all. Like,
they completely abandoned their formation to like kill Keith.
Yeah, like maybe
Keith is supposed to die at the right of team fight, start team fight. Sorry, that's the script. We got to kill him.
Yeah, like it just felt so unnatural to see TSM that desperate. Like what kind of shot calling is that? Like what kind of target focus is that?
Yeah,
and so. For me, it felt like they just got so desperate in the middle of the game. I don't know what happened, but this series seemed really poor by them.
And just to give a little bit more praise to Echo Fox, I liked what they did in game 2 where, like, you know, TSM's forcing around Dragon. They just flipped to the top side to trade because I think they thought their comp house, like, they don't need to fight for Dragons. Like, we're going to outscale, just trade gold and try and stay even. They get picked off, and then there was that whole Baron play where, like, Keith got Zyra killed, and then Echo Fox.
Yeah, Keith hit some great, like some ridiculous ultis this series.
Yeah, and then they just forced Baron and took Baron, and then from there it was like, oh, TSM screwed. Like they can't win this game.
All right, so final thoughts on the series.
Echo Fox continuing to improve. They showed not only do they have a really strong early game still, but they're like mid game and late game shot calling and like decision making is coming together more. I like that a lot.
TSM showing signs of inconsistency. I used to, like, for me, TSM was obvious top 3 team before this, and now they're showing signs of like maybe Echo Fox is just that good, but I find that they didn't even play up to the level that I expected of them.
My thoughts on TSM are that they aren't really improving, and I think other teams are. I think Echo Fox is improving. I think maybe not CLG, Immortals is improving, right? And TSM was this team that has really good players, but their decision making is really bad, and they don't make stuff happen on the map. And I thought this series just basically looked like they ran into a beast of an early game team who has decent shot calling in the mid game now, and they couldn't do anything.
And usually they can win off raw individual talent.
Right.
Like Sven's like a good Ivern. Like everyone on their team is a good player on like a lot of champions, right? But they don't necessarily work well as a good team. And we had critiqued TSM before as the only team in the top 4 that we were just like their decision making sucks a lot.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel like it's improving that much week by week. Certainly this week, I agree. I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, it just looked like TSM has not improved at all.
Okay, next series. Let's go.
Next series is
CLG versus P1.
CLG versus P1. Now this series,
start us off.
Stream one as a whole, dude, was just a struggle with the 2 best of 3s, and then the pause I had to fill like 20 minutes for. That was brutal. Anyways, this series, like, CLG showed some good stuff, as a little bit of good stuff. Hey, some good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's all. God, that's like the CLG.
That's the CLG story. Is like they showed a little bit better, still some inconsistencies. Like sometimes Huhi and Smithy were playing really well. Then in the last game it was Darshan and Stixay, and then like they never pull it together ever.
Yeah, and they still have the problem where, like, it feels like they don't account for a lot of the variables that can happen in team fights. So it's like, okay, we're going in, we have the good look, but it's like, oh, we didn't really think about, like, where this player was on the map. Like, for instance, when they forced the Baron play, like, Kha'Zix literally just jumped behind and killed Stixay for free. And then Hui killed himself, and then it was like, oh, we just lose this game.
And on the flip side, P1 around Baron just looks like a complete disaster. Like, I don't know if they had a successful Baron play this entire series. They might have, but all 3 games were like, oh, they lost around Baron, they lost around Baron.
And as the games progress, you start to realize that like Nori's inconsistency starts showing. Some of the times he does super well, and he's honestly like a lot of their huge carry factor in their early game for this team. But he's just less consistent. I feel like works with Ryu like a lot less. Ryu especially like just seems like he hasn't done as well in the last week. And I don't even know if like necessarily what's to blame. I just feel like they haven't. This is a team that hasn't super improved since we saw them the week before.
I think that's a good way of putting it, is that they're playing a team in CLG who improved a little bit this week. Who did they lose to previously in this week? Because they went 0-2. I don't know. We'll remember later. But yeah, they don't feel like they're improving. Like CLG, I hesitate to say they're improving as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't.
They're just hit or miss.
Yeah, like because we can't give CLG that much credit because again, they're the only team with a returning roster from 2 splits. And so expectations for CLG are always really, really high. Even as like a hardcore CLG fan, like I'm not happy with the games. Like they won 2-1. I'm not happy that they won 2-1. Like I'll take it, but
lost to Fox was the other one.
Oh, I mean, I think losing to Fox is like.
Anyways, so yeah, game 1, CLG Afro looked good.
Great.
Afro looked good. He's running around the map. He's making stuff happen on Thresh. He's a great Thresh player.
I think this is one of the times where they really took advantage of P1's bot lane.
Yeah.
And so, like, usually everyone remarks, Adrian's okay, you know? Like, the bot lane, the carry player on that team is Arrow. Arrow is, like, the monster.
Right.
But in lane, like, commonly, like, it doesn't go super well for them. And the Thresh versus Karma matchup is not, like, a good matchup. But ᵐᵉᵐᵉ just picked it because it's, like, maybe a hole in P1's early game.
Right.
And he took a bad matchup, and then they won laning phase off of it.
Right, and then from there, I think CLG did a lot of other stuff well. They had the thing where he was splitting bottom, and P1 like overcollapsed on him, and they took top inhib, and they were winning like a handful of fights, but then they like just died. They died a lot. They were baiting Baron for some reason, even though like the split push seemed to be working well. And then he gets super chunked out, and they lose a bunch of abilities. His Zanya's is down, and they're like, you know what we should do after getting really chunked out around Baron? We should fight. Yeah, we just used all our abilities. We should fight him. And then they die, and then they lose Baron. And then P1 should win the game off that mostly because they get like this. The gold lead goes like whoa, poof, and then P1 has like a massive gold lead, and then P1's like I hate Baron. And then they throw up Baron later.
Essentially, like this series for me was like just about as Fiesta as you can get because the second game, Stixday stole Baron. It was like a game where P1 dominates this game. Like straight up, this is like their game. It's 100% easy win, and it was still.
It's still an easy win.
Yeah, it's still an easy win, but it's kind of hard for them to close out. You're just like, dude, come on, man. You guys started this series like disgustingly far ahead. Like it just should be like, okay, you execute the Baron. And then you execute like the push with the Baron, and the game's over.
Right, and the thing was, you're talking about Afram. We had a great game 1. We're talking about how inconsistent CLG is. He just like fucking brain farts at level 6 and just like Stixday recalls. He's like walking up, pressuring the lane, and just gets chased down and killed for no reason. And Afro brain farts in lane all the time.
So the reasoning is because he wanted to block the Jin W from hitting his teammate, but instead of walking backwards and standing in front of it, he walked forward to pressure the support, and then he died for it. And you're just like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, it was not an impressive series of events for Afro at all. It just seems like, yeah, a lot of times their team isn't on the same page. Like, a couple people play well here, a couple people play well there. I still say overall, at least Hui's playing really well.
Hui generally plays really well.
And the third game is probably the most interesting for me because they played like a really dangerous comp without really front line.
No CC, basically.
The thing is, I don't even think P1's draft is bad. I think Xmithy showed he wasn't good on Rengar before, and he needed the Shen shell to cover his weaknesses. They took Shen, which is good into Rengar, and they still lost.
But they banned a bunch of tanks versus Darshan, and like the thing about Darshan, as much as you want to, you know, kind of make fun of him for being like a greedy player and inconsistent, does some like over aggressive plays, he does have a really deep champ pool. So like I don't understand banning Nautilus and Poppy against Shen, because that's like Shen's fine with those, and then he just picks GP into it and shits on the game. I mean, not a great early game out of Darshan, but once he got GP items, he started doing GP things, and he ended the game like 9-3.
I also thought Ryu played atrociously bad that game. This is probably like Ryu's worst game.
He didn't look comfortable on Echo at all.
Yes, and like especially because we saw he play Echo like a couple games ago.
Yeah, first game.
Sure, he killed himself like here and there, and they lost Baron off one of his.
But
best.
He also made big plays.
Yeah, he had huge plays with his team, and it just shows to me that like their team isn't coming together as much as I originally thought.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the whole Smithy no item start, red Krug clear.
Oh, God.
Kind of clear topside, but didn't take Gromp, so he cleared. I didn't understand his pathing at all.
I was just like, that's when I saw that, I was like, CLG lost. And then they were able to come back because I thought Ryu didn't play that well, and then they don't know how to team fight against like a Gangplank. Like if you die at Gangplank, that's his ideal formation, right?
And he had really good ults too, the whole game.
Yeah, and so the ideal way to deal with Gangplank is Ryu or Kha'Zix gets to flank with Shen, and then that's how they start the fight. And commonly it would be like they jump in from the front, and then they would just die. Like Mao's ulti then exploded, or Darshan would just like W out and like hit a barrel and run backwards, and they get kited.
Yeah, and then once again, the way P1 really loses this game is they win a team fight, 2 kills, 5v3, they go to a Baron, and then like they just have the most uncoordinated turn off of Baron in history, where like Stixxay and Darshan kill the support while Inori jumps the wall and gets like isolated versus. It's just like oh god, P1, that was atrocious.
Yeah, P1 is definitely falling on my scale of teams that I. Like, originally we thought P1 would do really, really well, but they didn't show much improvement this week.
Well, I think the series, like, I don't want to give them too much, like, forgiveness here. It seemed really fluky where, like, a lot of stuff they were winning, and then they would mess up so hard around Baron that they would ultimately, like, lose the game.
I mean, you can...
Like game 1, when Graves flashes into the pit with a Baron at 4k health, like, how do you not stop all damage instantly, kill Graves, and take Baron? But they, like...
Well, but I don't.
He like Foss bombed the Baron, like Corki Ryu Foss bombed the Baron.
I personally don't think that's like fluky. I just think that just means that they have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. But I'm saying like everywhere but Baron, I actually think P1 looked okay. So like they threw so hard around Baron consistently. It's like they're gonna do that apparently, but that's something that you can take and improve on pretty easily in a sense.
It seems like
it's such a focused area that they were doing badly.
Yes. But the thing is, Baron's such a big part of the mid game that saying that like they suck at Baron is pretty much telling me they don't know how
they can't close.
They can't close.
Yeah.
And so if a team can't close, they're not top 5. Essentially, they're not going to be top 5.
Right. I mean, what about our top 5 can't close? Let's be honest. We don't have 5 teams in NA that can close a game.
We have 3.
Who's your third?
Be Echo Fox, right?
Maybe. I mean, you were the one who was saying they just forced really hard around Baron.
Yeah, but no, that was last week. I thought they improved a lot, actually, like week by week. Maybe it's just like fluky, right? Maybe next week they're going to be like, oh shit, we don't know what we're doing, but...
2-0, 0-2, 2-0. We'll have to see if they go 0-2 again next week for Echo Fox.
Let's not focus too much on the rankings of teams. Let's move on to the next series.
Right, so ultimately, takeaways from this one, CLG still inconsistent as ever. P1 looking like they're not quite improving and have Baron problems.
I did like the fact that Afremu had like a really, really good game because he's had a lot of bad games.
Yeah, but he had a bad game this series.
It doesn't really mean much if it can't be consistent.
Right. All right. Third series of the day. Oh. Tell me we're saving the good one for last. All right, this is Dig Envy. You watched this series?
I didn't want to.
But you watched it?
Yes.
Dig look better?
Yes, but it's like... okay, so the reason why these two teams are some of the worst in the league is that they lack decisive, proactive plays. So they just don't know how to close. And it's not just that they don't know how to close, like... They don't even know how to.
They don't know what they want to do.
Yeah. It's like so obvious you watch the games, like they're just like happy like existing. Like they're just happy being alive, so they don't really push for anything that can cause deaths for either team.
My notes for game 1 is 24 minutes in, battle of who can do less.
Yes, like oh my god, it's so frustrating watching this type of team because you're like, okay, man, you have the pressure, you took the dragon, your team's on this way, you can just like try to make a play. You can try to get vision. It's like they don't even attempt for vision sometimes. It's like it's really iffy. I did not like this series. I will say the one thing is
I did not like this series.
They Dignitas had a new support, and they wanted the new support. So that
against
is something.
Envy.
Yeah, against Envy, sure. But I mean, I'm glad to see another rookie see LCS play. I thought in the first game he laned pretty poorly. And
I don't think he looked that good.
Yeah,
he looked okay. Like
he looked average, but maybe he helps Dig be able to close out the game. But I don't even know.
No, not even because like the first game, the way that ended, or like when Dig really got control of the game was like Keen was pushing top, and then like Envy swung behind him and tried to like force a random fight, not near any objectives, nothing to do with vision. Like, Dig was just like slightly extended top. Envy tried to punish it. Dig collapses. It's a clusterfuck of a fight in the top lane that Dig wins and gets Baron. It has like no strategy behind why that fight happened, other than like I think we can kill this guy.
Okay, you're right. I don't know what stuff brings to the team. I'm just happy that he's like
you're an optimist.
He's like the only person I can talk about, because it's like the games itself were relatively really boring. Like there's not much for me to say, because it's like, how does Envy even win games? Unless Scarra finds a great flank TP, they have 0 ways to win the game. Because but the only shining point about Envy, and this is true for their entire situation ever since they got Lir, is at some point Lir can go off early game. There's a lot of situations where Lir just finds kills and like starts the snowball early game. Like they start like 2-0, they start like 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. They have the lead and they just like they can't do anything.
Right, and I don't know even who to blame on Envy, because like sometimes Seraphim's
it's the whole team.
Yeah, it's the whole team. Like Ninja, I think, is a big one. He has like really bad stats all around, and then like I don't know. Like this was the problem coming in with this team. It was like, what does this team do? Like, what does this team ideally do when they're functioning well? Like even on paper, what does this team do? Because I don't know. Whereas like I look at Dignitas and I know what they want to do. Game 2, they kind of showed me where like Someday was a god and just like had the beast Shen taunts, like set his team up like, here, please carries, kill these people I'm giving to you.
The Shen taunt he made at Dragon where
with a flash?
Yeah, when he flashed the other way, I was like, this guy's a monster. But okay, so my thoughts on the second game are Dignitas has no idea how to close or how to even start fights. So what do? They put something on a way, and they run Rengar Shen, which is the shell that starts fights the easiest way, because it's you run at them with Rengar and you start the fight. And like that was their win condition. And I'm just like, okay, I guess. Because
they didn't even like start many fights like Rengar Shen.
They did like one fight at like the Dragon Pit, and you're like, oh my god, his flash. But for the most part, like they took so long to start fights anyways. But I mean, that's how they did it. And so like I'm happy they recognized a way to win.
Yeah, and the games weren't super long either, which I don't know if that means like Envy just doesn't know how to put up a fight once they fall behind. Because I wasn't like, oh man, Dig got Baron with a 5k gold lead, then like made a really good dive play and ended the game. It was kind of like they got Baron and the game's over.
Yeah,
and
then Envy didn't fight here.
Yeah,
they didn't fight here, and then when they did fight, oh, that's like they lost.
Yeah, and I mean, props also for Someday controlling Camille, but I mean, I didn't look like Seraph was a great Camille either. I don't know. The whole series was kind of not that much to talk about. It was just like Envy looks really bad, Dig looked a little bit better, but it's hard to know if they actually improved.
Yes, because I would rate Envy like very low in terms of the standings, and so maybe Dig is getting slightly better, but it's hard to really say against the caliber opponent they played against.
Right. So, I mean, Someday's still really good. I feel so bad for someone with import slot grab this man.
Yeah.
Please.
I mean, it could just be that Dig steps up. You know, like I think La didn't play that well this series.
How many series have you said that in a row?
Like 2.
That's it?
Yeah, like 2. Like 3 series of the whole split. That's not too bad.
Yeah, okay. I might have been saying it more. Anyways, let's move on to the actual series of the day that people really care about. C9 versus FlyQuest, baby.
I loved it.
I thought this series was great. I thought especially, I thought the series lived up to the hype in a number of ways. Game 1 was the crazy game, where you see FlyQuest doing some crazy stuff in the draft.
It's so great because I get closure, because before they tried the exact same strategy against Echofox.
Well, let's break down the series, because it starts with this crazy game 1 where FlyQuest shows how nuts they are in their picks and their play style, and it works out really well. They make one mistake around Baron, C9 gets back into the game, and then we see that C9 is kind of like that slow monster that's just going to grind you out, and they win game 1. Game 2, really crazy because they do a much more standard thing, and FlyQuest actually just beats them at their own game, kind of like a slower pace, methodical game. You're like, holy crap, FlyQuest can play a lot of different styles. And then game 3, a little bit of a fiesta with the bug and like all this other stuff, but the series was great overall. So now you get into the closure point.
Let's break down the game. So for people who don't remember, FlyQuest left up Camille in an earlier series against Echofox, and then they picked Poppy Eve to try to counterpick this situation. This was their strategy, and I had no idea if it was going to work or not. I suspected that it was okay. You said it was a pretty good idea, but you still hesitated leaving up Camille, and
This game showed why, because the strategy...
Really?
Yeah, because the strategy was good. Like, they camped the Camille, like, balls hard shoves top early so it bounces back into him, and then they camp him the Camille with the Eve, so you can't see the ganks really coming. And then Poppy, once like he got like another kill I think later with then someone else warming up. And then once Poppy gets that lead, he was solo pressuring Camille off turrets, which is good. But then my problem with the whole thing is that Camille's so reliable, so good that even when you shut her down, she's gonna have some 2,000 range ass stun that isolates people, and then like you have Tarek to ult at the very beginning.
Man, I don't really agree with that.
Oh my god. See elimination.
Yeah. We'll get there when we get to game 3. I don't really agree with that because I see the situation as, okay, they had a great strategy. They shut her down. They got the Assassin Eve ahead. Sneaky didn't exist for a lot of the game. Like, actually just got like...
Sneaky would just be like, guys, don't leave behind. And the Eve's right behind me.
And it just gets one hit back to back. And the biggest problem here that I thought in this series was just that you kind of saw some of the openings from FlyQuest. FlyQuest tend to play very fast and somewhat loose, and a lot of it is around elimination, which is their main vision source, and a person who tends to go by himself or with very few numbers. So everyone talks about, oh, the game exploded at Baron. That's not when I thought the game exploded. The game exploded when
Dragon.
It was the top lane rotation from whatchamacallit? Lemon. Lemon rotated top lane too high and got caught on the rotation because it was just like a really greedy rotation to high. And C9 was ended up waiting. They killed him, and then they killed Balls who tried to save him.
Right.
And then that stopped all the momentum from like high split push and their ability to like continue their pressure.
So I know what you're saying. That was the first like mistake really out of FlyQuest.
And then the Baron, like, the game's over.
So the reason I kind of put it more on the Baron, like, because it's definitely true that that's the first point where Camille did stuff in the game, and Camille started becoming back to relevancy. But my problem with the Baron was, like, they could have split pushed again. Like, they had an attempt where High was in the bot lane, and they rotate the Eve over. And what's nice now is because you have the Jace matched up against it, and the Eve actually has a real kill threat where it's a little less when the Poppy's there. You get to have your Poppy core, like a tank with your 4-man core, and you have the Jace split. I like the way they have their lane setups, but they didn't go back to it. After they failed to make that play once, then they forced Baron. I thought they could have just kept splitting the Jace and having Eve bounce between the 4 and the split pusher.
Yes, I think that Eve did a great job early game in keeping down Camille, but Camille was just able to farm her way up, and they didn't do enough to like dive her or pressure other parts of the map while she was building up. And finally, when they did get to the Baron fight, like, yeah, it was kind of a desperate call. Like, obviously, it's like a call where you're just like, we're gonna go for it.
And that's kind of how FlyQuest plays, so I don't hate it, but the problem was they blew so many resources in that Baron attempt trying to stop the Graves.
They lost the game.
Yeah, because they shoot the Poppy ult at the Graves, missed it, and then they Malzahar ult the Graves. And it's like, okay, you stopped him from getting the Baron, but now you're all pinned up against the pit with this fed Cassio and ulted Tarek like coming at you.
But yeah, would it have been different if the Poppy ult pushed them out? I still think that's a terrible position.
No, I think they're still in a bad position. I still think they probably lose that fight, but if you have the Malzahar ult, like, maybe you turn and you can get Jensen quickly or something. Yeah. But it's hard because the Tarek's already ulting, so like I think they're in trouble.
Yes, I think overall FlyQuest early game is incredibly good. Like, throughout this whole series, essentially they won early game every single time except for the third game where they won it and then like.
We'll get into the third game in a minute.
But for the most part, FlyQuest early game is really good, and almost all of it comes from the fact that, and this is the overlying theme throughout this whole series for me, is Jensen still has the problem from last season, and it was covered up with the fact that his teammates got a lot better, and their overall team got better. But Jensen's problem is that it's hard for him to roam individually and affect other areas. What happens usually is that junglers come mid, or his team comes mid, or his top lane comes mid, gets him the lead, and then he goes out and does stuff. But before that happens, if that doesn't happen, then what ends up happening? He like freezes the lane to put pressure on the mid lane over like trying to put pressure on the enemy jungler. And like there were situations where in game 2 where Contracts went to go do Wraith Camp, and mid had priority, but mid didn't shove and so collapsed late, you know? And so that's just like a very clear miscommunication between the jungle mid and bad synergy. Whereas I feel like Moon and High are probably one of the two best like duos in terms of jungle mid.
What I like about Fly and Moon is even when they have great duo synergy, they're also really good individually. Like most of the series was actually camping Impact, which I thought was really interesting that they targeted Impact so heavily in the series. They killed him. He was the first death on C9 every game, and it was always Balls and Moon, and or High would come up there as well.
And that's what I find so great is that High will literally just give up CS. Did you see his stats for CS?
Down.
He's the 10th mid laner in CS per minute. Of all the mid laners, he is on the #2 team right now. He has the worst CS stats of any player in the league. And that should say how he plays the lane. He literally will give up the lane to make the play top lane, to make the play bot lane, and to win his team the game.
Well, and what's great is like he's not just a team player, because like, okay, game 1 he roams top to make the play, then he roams bottom to get the turret, but he still is relevant on his own as well, because he solo killed Jensen later as well, where he just messed him up in the side lane. And so I think that's what's great about Hai, is like he doesn't just roam around the map and, oh, I'm a team player and then I'll just do whatever my team wants. He'll also go and make the big play individually as well.
Yeah, I do have to give a lot of credit to C9 though. Jensen, obviously very high tier mechanical player. I think he's probably one of the best in terms of like raw mechanics ability to dodge skill shots in North America, like straight up, if not the best mid laner, at least like the second best. And on top of that, I think Smoothie has just cemented himself as the best support.
Yeah, hands down.
Hands down for me. It's like Smoothie's up here, and like the competition is like struggling in like all the way down here, because he's the most consistent. He has a lot of flexible picks, and he's good at all of them. Look at his Taric. Compare his Taric ults to anyone else in the league playing Taric. It's not even close. His Taric ults are phenomenal. Like, he literally solo carried, or like duo carried the game with Jensen.
That was Jensen just like kiting like a monster in a number of team fights, and like just he plus. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Smoothie was able to back him up with like great ultis, like in the Baron pit, the ulti hit like 3 or 4 people, and in the other
mid lane ones, yeah.
Like, so I think Smoothie right now deserves a lot of credit. Not only does he play super well, he shot calls for the team as well, so he's playing really, really well.
So moving on to game 2, I actually found this one arguably more interesting from like a high-level look at it, even though it was a much slower game, not as much crazy stuff happening as game 1. It was FlyQuest going totally standard pick ban, totally standard playstyle, and beating C9, and doing it convincingly.
Yeah,
like,
I was most impressed because they just were able to win in a style that you always think of FlyQuest as, oh, they're the random team. They pick random stuff. And C9 is the one, the meta people.
Yeah.
Meta slaves. You know exactly what they're going to play. Maokai every game, Shen every game. They're going to play like the top tier mid lane pick, and they're going to pick like the top tier jungle pick and all that stuff. And then it wasn't that way. I think it really showed the fact that like FlyQuest just knows how to get the early game leads. Because the reason why this game blew up, why they did that 4 or 5 man bot lane pressure.
So to touch on that, the problem is, and I think a lot of people already kind of knew this and suspected this, like they think Contract's probably the weakest link on C9. I don't think that's like blowing anyone's mind to hear that. And he went for that jungle invade, and then it blew Shen's ultimate after Shen had used TP to get back in the lane. So Impact has no global abilities. FlyQuest is now up in ultimate, and then they forced that bot play right after.
I just think as soon as Contracts loses pressure in the jungle, like the first game, Eve not only got the first kill, also out-leveled Graves, who was only farming because Moon just hard-read his route. Like, he stole the Wraith Camp while, like, Graves was doing his full clear, and he was able to get a level up on Graves, even though he also ganked. And so I was like, wow, Moon just, like, read this guy like a book. Like, Moon played that so well. Second game, yeah, they made the mistake on the invade, and then Jensen and him weren't on the same page, and Contracts died. And as soon as that happens, as soon as the jungler dies, Hai and Moon just take over the game.
Yeah, Hai's like, okay, I got my package, we're going bottom, let's dive this. And if you have the Shen in that dive, it goes a lot worse. And then, like you were saying, the problem with Jensen is his roaming isn't quite up to like top tier level. It's not bad, but he tried to follow that play. It's hard to follow a Corki. He shows up late, unable to do anything, sits around there, and then finally goes back mid and pushes it. And he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't even like punish the roam as hard as you could if you just stayed mid. So that was a little unfortunate. And then after that, like, Balls actually is just like super impressive in terms of his tanking generally.
A lot of people had questions about Balls, and I know even you and me were just like, he's not a top laner, but he's a great role player, right? We said similar comments about Zig, but you commented that he was worse than Zig, and I kind of agreed with you.
I think time to revisit that idea.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Balls, he's a great role player, but he's also just like a good player in general. Like he doesn't ever, like, if you look at team fights where tanks commonly overextend to take extra damage, he very rarely does that. I don't know if he's being controlled to back up after he goes in, but he is really, really good at playing like that thin line between pressuring as the front line and not taking too much damage.
I think he deserves some credit because there was a team fight in game 2 where he was pushing bot lane and then dips into the jungle and wraps all the way around on his own while FlyQuest is setting up a Baron. So then when C9 comes in through the Raptor camp, he's already flanked around, and then he just gets the perfect flank onto a Sneaky who lost his flash already with Altek's Jhin ultimate.
Oh,
so like,
yeah.
It was such a beautiful team fight.
The Assassin Maokai.
Yeah, the Assassin Maokai.
He flashed W into 5 people and didn't even lose his shield health until like
because
4
like
seconds into the fight.
C9's in full panic, like, oh, what is he doing here? Like mode, and they just try and run away. So, like, Balls had a number of good TP flanks that game. They kind of just kind of ground out C9, which is like what C9 does.
Yes, so it was really interesting. I honestly like this is something where I was like, oh, so FlyQuest can play standard against the best standard team in the league and win.
Right.
And which made me have to reevaluate their strengths again because I'm just like, they're just a good team.
Yeah. So then we finally get into game 3. This game, oh man. So we go back to mostly a standard game. The weirdest stuff. Well, in terms of like, they didn't have any crazy game plan where like we're leaving Camille open or anything. It was still definitely a FlyQuest draft where they have Nidalee and Zed, which no one else is really playing.
I thought it was really interesting that they opted for Shen or for Nautilus over Shen to make sure they can keep down the AD carry.
Well, Shen was banned.
Wait, what was it banned in the second rotation or the first?
C9 banned it in the first rotation.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then.
Yeah.
Then that they just opted for Nautilus. Okay, I must have read that draft wrong. That's my bad.
I might have written it wrong, but I think it was banned first rotation.
You're probably right. I just thought, okay, let me think about this series again.
So what happens in game 3 is like Moon goes top really early.
Yes,
Impact pushes in and they kill him level 2.
Okay, everyone who talks about Moon to me is like Moon's a very, very smart player. He'll give up jungle camps, he'll give up CS, give up XP to be there at a specific timing to where he'll get something.
Right.
And he started blue side and
Yeah.
he ended top side at like 3:30 because he went bot side and went back top side. So like this guy is just like had the read on like that. There's a lot of situations. The first game where he takes the raid camp. The third game where he does his route where he's just like he played really, really well.
Right, and unfortunately he had like one misplay that led to like the whole sequence that started to let the game slip away from FlyQuest.
Where he autos the creep.
Yeah, where he autos the creep. So he misses one auto attack. And somehow that leads to like the most ridiculous snowball series of events. We're like, okay, well, Impact's really low, but he's not recalling, so we're going to pressure him off this wave. We're continuing to pressure him. And like Hai's like, I'm a team player. I'm going to roam up there.
And Zyra comes in
and then
exhaust last minute.
Yeah, so like Smoothie, they like, C9 reads this play coming, and then Jensen finishes pushing in his mid wave to deny Hai some CS, and then they get a 4v3 collapse on the top side, and C9 turns it, and it's only like a 1-for-0, I think, where I think only Hai dies.
But still, Hai dies and loses like 10 CS again, and he's already 25 CS behind Zillion in like a technical counter pick lane. Oh, and the funny thing is, Lemon tweeted something that said Jensen promised you to play Assassin versus Assassin to Hai before the series, and he bitched out, which I think is really, really funny. I don't know. I think Hai just got baited, I think regardless if they played Assassin versus Assassin, the series itself still went out really, really well. I don't even think Zillion was like a super hard counter pick. The good thing about Zed is that he has poke potential. Like he pokes people down before he has to.
He's not like a Fizz.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yeah, and so I don't necessarily think it was too bad, but there's like a bunch of situations which didn't go out well. So to compound on the situation top lane, so Moon doesn't get the kill, right? Top lane. They mess up, or Hai dies, and then Moon runs through the bot river, killing the Scuttle, and Contracts just has a ward there. It's over the wall, jumps and solo kills Moon. And this is the first time in the series where Contracts is like, "Yay, I'm above Moon." And
yeah,
yes!
I'm doing it.
Yeah, but and like before this series, like he's just getting spanked.
Right. So things are looking pretty good for C9. The FlyQuest bot lane goes aggressive. They fuck it up, and then the pause happens.
Yeah.
The pause. So a lot of people were really confused at this. I was rewatching it a lot. If you watch it in slow motion, you can see pretty clearly that even though the ultimate out of Altec is invisible, it is still doing damage to the Zyra. So that's what a lot of the confusion was about, but because it was still invisible, Riot had to remake the game. And apparently they have new technology that lets them almost, they remake the entire game or something up until that point, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's sick. And on top of that, they just flash all in again, but this time they had the void
yes.
and they killed them.
So after the huge pause, coming out of the pause, I was like, yo, FlyQuest, if there's a team that's gonna come out of the pause and just like fuck somebody up, it's FlyQuest. And then they just do the exact same play, except this time, yeah, Lemon actually makes his Voidlings this time.
Yeah.
And then they kill, and it's such a huge swing because initially it's a 1-for-0 for C9.
And
this time it's a 1-for-0 FlyQuest.
And they got Dragon.
And they get first turret. And they get first turret. And it's like, oh my god. Oh my god, this is like the most ridiculous come out of a pause I've ever seen in League of Legends.
I just thought it was super funny that situation happened because everyone's debating, like, did it happen? Did it happen like this? And they're just like, let's make it happen if it didn't.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny, but despite that, it wasn't quite enough.
I just thought that there's a lot of situations where Hai like almost played the team fight out really well, but wasn't able to do it. He had either poor ulti target selection. So a good example is when C9 pushed top lane halfway through the game. What ended up happening was he ultied Zyra.
Yeah.
He ultied Kha'Zix. Oh, it was Zyra.
It was Zyra.
He killed Contracts, and then if that ulti went on the AD carry, what happens? 100% Sneaky dies. If he lands the W auto afterward. But that didn't happen, and then Zyra and Sneaky live. So there's like a bunch of situations where like Hai was like prime position to just take off. But it just didn't work out that way.
I thought even though he wasn't, he misplayed a couple teams, but I think it was a really hard team comp to execute on the side of FlyQuest because you have Maokai, Malzahar, Zed, Nidalee, all single target focused champions for the most part against Zilean. Like, that alone makes it so hard, on top of the fact that you have a ton of zone control coming in from Zyra, Jhin, even Kha'Zix with his poke. Like, it's just so hard to play an assassin against this team comp. And I mean,
and the worst thing is, like, on top of that, Altec is like trying to figure out how he wants to team fight.
Yeah,
and he built was it second item cleaver? So he had a really late edge of the night, so he couldn't push up really far in the team fight or else he get Nala's ulti, but he still had to be pushed up far enough to where when Maokai gets snared, he has enough. He's in range to follow up to hit the backline, and so he had to play a really delicate like spacing game.
Yep. And
he just got caught one time at Dragon.
Right, and that was the big one. So, like, what was impressive to me was the fact that, so, you know, FlyQuest, probably worst team fighting team comp. They're losing early. They give up a Baron. They give up a bot inhib. But then they make a ton of stands where they actually team fight pretty well, which is really impressive. And they start clawing their way back into the game. But then it's just too hard to consistently win team fights, despite the fact that I thought they were playing their comp.
I think their comp at 4 items is great. And as soon as it gets to like 5-6, that's when Jhin Zilean is just too much.
Yeah.
And Zed starts falling off, MF starts falling off, and so they had their opening and they weren't able to convert hard enough during there because they were already behind. And it just sucks. You know, in some situations, if this was slightly better, this was slightly better. I think I'm very nitpicky right now. Honestly, they played their comp almost as well as they could have from being in the behind position. And sure, like maybe Hai died in like the bot lane fight or in the side lane fight, but it was a difficult fight for almost everyone to play out, including Balls, who had to literally frontline by himself against 5 people.
That was actually what made the comp the most difficult, was the fact that Balls had to engage, but there was so much zone control on C9 where, like, if Balls W someone, just throw 2 bombs behind him and, like, who's going to follow up? Throw some Zyra plants behind him. Who's going to follow up? Like, no one else can run through the zone control but Balls. Like, when C9 played the fights those way, they pretty much crushed them. And then when they tried to over-engage or, like, re-engage themselves, Altec tore them apart. So, like, it was this kind of, like, really interesting push-pull where, like, Balls had the front line, but, like, also bait C9 in so Altec could ult and actually do the only, like, AoE that their team really had. And I don't know. It's just, like, too hard to play that comp. From behind.
Yeah. I think that against any other team, FlyQuest could have won. Because they needed, like, C9 level ability to be able to win that series. And I think it speaks great for FlyQuest. And it also speaks good for C9 too, that they're able to beat FlyQuest.
So my takeaway from the series is actually I'm more impressed with FlyQuest coming out of it than C9. Because here's my thoughts. C9 is the best team for sure. Skill-wise, they have the best understanding of the meta and things like that, sure. But they're not very proactive, and that scares me because I always want the best team to crush people. And C9 doesn't always crush people. Like, they struggled a little bit versus CLG. They struggled a little bit versus TL. I mean, I know that some of these are with Ray, but the CLG one wasn't. And they don't seem to, like, dominate people with their own plays. They're very good at punishing your misplays, and that's how they won Game 3, really. It wasn't off the back of, like, we set up a great bot dive and crushed you with it. And that's my concern, because they need to be able to do that, especially, like, maybe not in NA. Maybe no team in NA can really beat C9. But we want to see them internationally. And right now, I don't think they're there.
Even if you think about the teams that are improving the most and the teams that look the best, we're the most proactive teams this week. It was Echo Fox and FlyQuest. And they're the teams that I thought were looking the best.
Yeah. And so, like you said, flip it to FlyQuest. Sure, this series didn't work out for them. A couple plays go just a little bit different. Like, they can win, and they're going to. So I think FlyQuest in the rematch, like I would maybe
it'd still be a coin flip.
Yeah, it's a coin flip because FlyQuest showed that they don't need to do everything all gimmicky with crazy stuff. They can play normal.
So my takeaway on the series is that I also am more impressed with FlyQuest just because going in, there's a lot of question marks around FlyQuest. You know what to expect from C9. They draft great, they play great, and all their players are good. With FlyQuest, you're just like, well, can they play standard as well as C9? Can they win a game if like from their top line position? Like, can they deal with better teams playing like great champions? Can they snowball through like this way? Is Moon going to stack up against Contracts? Is Hai going to stack up against Jensen? All of these questions kind of got eliminated as the series got progressed because the answers to all these questions were, yeah, they can pretty much match up.
Right. So FlyQuest pretty much. I think this is the final nail in the coffin for any doubt you might have in terms of like potential weaknesses.
They're at the very least a top 4 team, and right now they're very easily top 2.
Yeah, I think they're top 2 for sure. We'll do the power ranking in a minute. C9 though, like I said,
they're still great.
They're great. They have time to improve still.
But I think this series, above all other series, showed the whole, which is like Contracts and the fact that like mid and Contracts, Jensen and Contracts are not working well together to find the early game plays.
They're not dominant enough. They can crush the other mid laner, but can they extend that elsewhere on the map?
Yeah, and when you watch what like Acadian does with Froggy, when you watch what Hai does with Moon, you're just like, wow, this game's over. We're here for 27 minutes and this game's done. But it's a little bit different with C9 sometimes.
Right. So, yeah, that's our final thoughts on that series. That brings us to everyone's favorite part. I don't know if that's true, but it's time for the power rankings.
Whew.
Let's get that up on screen.
I'm ready.
So let's start with the basics like we usually do, getting the easy ones out of the way.
Top 2,
C9
FlyQuest.
C9 FlyQuest.
Yeah, and whoever was going to win this series is going to take rank 1 for me. Because
depending how it happened, actually.
Right, but at least after the second game, I already saw enough. Like, I knew that the FlyQuest would play standard. If they won the third game, I was going to give it to them.
Right.
And unless, barring like some huge fluke where like FlyQuest steals Baron with a Zed Shuriken, and then like the other team just makes like the dumbest decision in their life.
Yeah. So I think we're in agreement. 1-2 FlyQuest C9. Like I said, my big concern with these being our top 2 teams is I don't have like a ton of faith right now in terms of our ability to compete internationally. I think the league is weaker than last year, and C9 is not as dominant as the top teams from last year. I think the bottom of the league is a little bit better. I've been saying for a while. I think the league has kind of come towards the middle more, but the top end is weaker for sure.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope that as FlyQuest and C9 and hopefully like, you know, TSM and P1 improve, they'll all improve together. We're not even halfway through the split yet. We're
right. So 4. Of course, who knows? Like we can keep seeing improvement, but right now there's enough holes on. I mean, honestly, FlyQuest looks the most complete as a team, despite the fact I think C9's better, just in terms of overall strengths. So it's an interesting top 2 right now, actually.
Yes, I'm happy there's at least a debate. Right. Before it used to be C9's there for sure.
Yep. All right. And then I think number 10 is easy to do as well.
Envy.
God. Not
Their only redeeming quality is that Lyra can get leads early. I'm serious. Like, Lyra can get leads early. Sometimes Seraph can make an initiation. And sometimes Ninja can do something.
Their early stats are like okay. They're not like a god-awful team from start to finish. They have like a little bit that they do early, but then their mid and late game is atrocious, and there's a reason that they're at 1-7. 1-7?
It's just like, I'd love to see something. The only thing I've seen recently is that their bot lane can win lane. Like, they won lane against Stuntopolis by like 15 CS and pressure. But like, that's also like a new support, and they lost the series, so like, it doesn't really mean much if they can't like transition it. I don't know what's going on. Envy, 10th place for me. I hope they get better. Please, dear God.
Please, dear God. Bottom teams. Number 9.
Dig.
You put Dig.
Wait. Let me...
I mean, here, Josh, can you rotate a little bit just so we can look at the teams? Oh, we lost second camera. All right, we're good. So you can see it? Because I wouldn't...
Oh, you would put Team Liquid here.
I would put Team Liquid here.
Oh, God. You think that Team Liquid has... looked worse than Dig. Dig looked really bad this week. Like, Dig, oh my God.
They beat Envy. Did Team Liquid beat Envy?
Team Liquid had a close series against C9 with Ray, right?
With Ray!
But...
And using...
I would say a close series against C9 is like worth a win against Envy. Like, is that bad of me to say? Is that BM? No flame. I'm sorry.
It's a little bad. I don't know. I think. All right, so let's talk about Dig versus Team Liquid here. So my thing with Team Liquid is like they shit the bed so often in so many different roles and in so many different ways that they have like you can look at like how does this team plug all those holes? Like there's so many holes. Like this is a bucket that like has just been like had a machine gun open up into it. Like it's like hardly a bucket anymore.
So for me, it's like similar to CLG, where some people will perform and some people will fail. So they're like the poor man CLG, which is
they're
terrible,
the poor man CLG.
Terrible enough because CLG is like
they're not even the top half of the league, probably.
Yes. So,
how are you so poor?
But look at Dignitas. What does Dignitas have for them? Please.
They have someday.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not like I feel like without someday Chaser can't even initiate. Chaser can't find the looks. Their mid lane's not going to find the looks. Keen's not going to be like popping off.
Their bot lane doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and so for me, Team Liquid at least at some points look good. You know, they had periods of time where Piglet found the initiation. Periods of time where Lorlo played well. Rainover playing great. You know, Lorlo kind of got his power stolen by Rainover, and and you know, there's even situations where like Matt's doing well too. And so I think that they found maybe a little bit of the spark they needed to be able to win games in the first series. The second series, let's not talk about that.
Second series is what matters to me though, because they got their comp banned out. Like game versus C9, they ran Rumble, Graves, and Varus, right? And then
that was a great comp. I loved when they
they look good at it. They look good on it for sure. Don't get me wrong. But then game 3, they can't get the Graves. It gets banned out. He plays Rek'Sai. That's not the same champion. It doesn't do anything the same. They lose that game. Despite having a good early game without Rainover hard carrying the team fights on Graves, they lose. Next series, they don't get the comp anymore. They get smashed. Not even close.
But they also got smashed by, what was it, Echo Fox?
Immortals.
Oh.
Yeah!
Wait, I'm not saying anything bad about Immortals. I'm just saying,
Yeah, I'm not saying too much bad about Immortals too, but it's not like they had a close fight versus C9 with a comp they like against Ray.
But for me, it's like they can win with this comp. Like they've obviously practiced it and their players play it well. Whereas Dignitas, they can beat Envy because they exist. Like that's kind of how I see it. It's like because someday exists as a person, they have the edge up.
It's not like he suddenly stops existing.
That's depressing for me to even put someone on like a leaderboard for that.
Okay, so I'll defer to you on this one. I personally think Team Liquid's worse. You think Dig's worse. I don't think it's like super cut and dry because it's like Team Liquid has more things that go right, but more things that go wrong.
Yes.
Whereas Dig has one thing that almost always goes right, but it doesn't go right hard enough. So it's really pick your poison here. I mean, I don't really care because I think this is really close.
Yeah, for me, this is essentially like.
All right, throw Dig in there.
Yeah, throw Dig 9th and we'll go
throw
TLA.
Dig, blah, 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 blah.
For me, it's like we're arguing about the teams that like didn't play that well.
Yeah, okay, that was a nice way of putting it. We're arguing about teams that did not play very well.
Yes.
They can look to improve in the coming weeks.
Wow, that Riot train's working out.
Yeah, great. Number 7, I think we'll see a little bit of a
It's either
disagreement.
CLG or Immortals.
I think it's between CLG and Immortals, and
God,
it's tough.
If CLG played like a halfway decent series, they won today, I'm not happy with the win. Like, and Immortals, their series against which one? TL was great. They showed decisive ways to win, and Poe Butter played better. Darlak's still playing well. Their bot lane playing actually really well.
Yeah,
and so,
it's like. I'm going to give it to CLG over Immortals. And here's why. Immortals beat Team Liquid and Dig. It looked good. It looked really good. But those teams are also notorious for just like not even playing the game. Like Dignitas Game 1 versus Immortals was like I said, like
it was the worst.
It was legitimately
ever.
The worst league I've ever watched in person. Like professional. And like that's like winning that game does not mean anything to me. And then game 2, Dig looks super, super tilted. So like I don't think that series means anything.
Oh, what was CLG's competition this week? They had a really hard schedule, right? So they ended up playing P1 and they ended up playing something else, right?
I don't remember what's gonna be on my other page of notes here. CLG also played Echo Fox. And Echo Fox looks reasonable.
I think Echo Fox looks pretty good.
Yeah, so like Immortals, sure, they beat 2 teams who they're better
But they
than.
lost 0-2 to Echo Fox, and their wins against like Immortals at least 2-0 the week. You know, they showed their strength of schedule sucked comparatively.
Right, and it's not like just their strength of schedule sucked. Like I think they caught Dig looking their worst, and I think they just are better than TL right now. So like that one.
I mean, it's not really hard.
Yeah. No. So I would probably give it to CLG over Immortals, but I mean Immortals does have the better record. If that means anything to you.
No, I don't care about records. We put Immortals last place when they had better records than 2 other teams.
Yeah,
and,
they also.
And yeah, it does not matter.
Okay. So personally, get that Dardock 2. Put him 10.
Yeah,
Put Dardock 10th for that tweet.
Yeah, dude, I'm down, dude.
Yeah, swap Envy and Immortals
you
here.
think you can BM us, dude? Not even close.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say I think CLG 7th. So I know I was arguing for Immortals.
Wait, you just flip flop.
I did flip flop because
you're not a president. You can't do that.
hey, I'm a what is it? I'm a populist. I'm a populist. I just do what the people want.
Okay.
I think CLG is more likely to turn it around, but
yes, but I think for this week,
I can see CLG.
Immortals played well.
Yeah, they didn't do anything bad this week for sure.
Yeah,
it's
and
true.
their strength of schedule was terrible.
Yeah, I mean we can put it on strength of schedule, but I guess it's not really fair to discredit them entirely for that. Whereas like CLG, their strength of schedule was better and they looked worse. So I don't know.
All right, I think it's close enough to where what happened was when I was looking at these teams, I had like a lot of 2 teams that shared the same spot, right?
Yeah, it's mostly 2s.
Yeah, C9 FlyQuest, it was CLG and Immortals, it was TL and Dig, like all of these things.
And I think the next one.
Oh, the next 2 are also.
No, I think it's easy. I think P1 is a clear 5.
Yes.
So I think P1 is very easy to see as 5.
They played pretty bad recently. Like I don't know what ended up happening, but it doesn't seem as clean as before. Inori in situations where he doesn't want to be, where he's behind early, and we were worried about this team if Inori suffers. And without him setting the pace of the game, they just lose.
And I don't actually think that they looked as bad as you're saying this week. I agree that they have their problems, and a lot of the ways that they were closing out games really decisively was they were not in set situations where they're controlling around Baron. And I think they ended up in a lot more of those situations this week, and they got exploited by that.
So you just think their Baron is the biggest problem there?
I think they have a massive problem around Baron that didn't get exploited prior to this week, but I think their strengths are mostly still there. So I think P1, Arrow's still a beast.
Yeah.
I think Ryu is
still good?
Still good. Sometimes inconsistent, but still really good. Inori's good, and like Zig and Adrian do their jobs mostly.
Yes.
So I think if they don't have to make a really coordinated play, like a real Baron turnoff or a real Baron bait, like those kinds of plays, any other play than that, I think they're okay at. And obviously, if you fuck up horrendously around Baron, you're going to look awful in those situations.
And the worst thing right now is like you can't really split push to the point where like nothing is as effective as setting up for Baron in the mid game.
Right?
Like,
there's no Fiora split push right now, really.
Yeah, you can't win the game if you can't bait Baron. If you don't know how to play around the Baron objective, it's very difficult for you to close games at the moment. And so having that kind of hole is huge for P1.
Right, it's a massive hole. I don't want to downplay the fact that it's like, oh, well, they're pretty good aside from the fact they can't do the most important thing in the game. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't think they looked like I didn't see something where I was like, wait, I think I misjudged this team horribly. I think
you just think that they got exploited.
I saw like a new dimension where it's like, okay, wait, their Baron sucks, but these other things are still true.
Right, and I think that's kind of how I felt about the current C9, where it's like I suspected their jungle was weak, but I found out like their jungle mid is just worse than FlyQuest. You know, and
right.
That could maybe be a hole that can't even be exploited by most of the teams in the league.
Right, and so that's how I feel about P1 right now. Like I don't like Ryu's not suddenly worse, and Nori's not suddenly worse. I think that there's just this area that they didn't get exploited that they did now. So
I'm a little bit worried for P1's bot lane. If people are taking like Thresh matchups into Adrian and winning them, then I'm like worried because they need Adrian to get out of lane even for him to be able to like crush the game.
Yeah, Adrian's role on this team I think is to babysit Arrow to get him out of lane to when he's the best AD carry in the league.
Yes, and I think Adrian outside of lane is actually pretty good.
I think he's fine.
I think he's actually pretty good. And but in lane, I'm like starting to question it.
Yeah. They definitely have a couple laning issues.
Okay.
So if Josh wants to do his job instead of memeing, he could put P1 at 5th.
Yes.
And then he could put a big red arrow next to him.
All right. So we have 4th.
So here we go.
This is where we argue between Echo Fox and TSM.
Here's where we argue between Echo Fox and TSM.
TSM is 4th.
That wasn't much of an argument, dude. Sell me on that. You can't just tell me that and Josh puts it in.
Wow, dude, that's a little bit.
Hey, no, he's got to sell us, Josh.
Okay,
don't listen to him.
So for me, ignoring the fact that Echo Fox beat TSM. Let's say Echo Fox played against someone in the top 5.
Let's say TSM lost to I don't know, P1 and Echo Fox beat someone else.
Oh, before it used to be that when we talked about TSM, we're like they're one of the most consistent teams in the league, and they're the team with like the best, like really good individual talents. Sometimes they don't come together well, but having such high individual strength means they'll never really get blown out by like a worse team. And the real reason why I don't like it is I always tend to value proactive play, and we talked about before TSM's proactive play. I mean, just watch how they try to get.
If it's not 100% channeled through Bjerg's Fen, they don't have proactive play really.
Yes, and it sucks because it's like, okay, well, does that mean that they have to run Ivern in a lot of the games and camp mid lane? Yes, that's what they do. Does that mean they run Scarra on Lee and try to dive with him and Bjerg? Yes, that's what happens. But even with that being in mind, it's not enough a lot of times. And so I think that I really hate their like. It's not even that they
you hate their teamwork.
Yes, I hate their teamwork and the fact that they're less consistent than I expected. Because even against Echo Fox this week, they should have put up a better game.
Right, like game 2, despite the fact that I didn't really like their comp, they did make plays in the early game, and they should have been able to push those leads better, but they didn't. They flubbed a number of plays, and that's my problem with it.
Yeah, and I thought they were doing well. Like the point of recovery was Sven going bot lane after dying level like early, and then like getting the double kill, and then getting the first tower. I was like, oh, they're great. They're in prime position to not win the game, apparently.
Yeah. So I was just prompting you. I was playing devil's advocate. I agree. Actually, I have Echo Fox above them at 3, TSM at 4.
And to be honest, Echo Fox is just really impressive. They jumped up from like 8 2 weeks ago to where are they now? 3. Third. Which is crazy.
I'm like scared putting them third.
Oh, no, I am too.
I'm terrified.
I think they're a guaranteed top 5 team.
Yeah.
At the very least, I think they're top 5.
Yeah.
And I am just... it's like if you place them third, it means that they match up against the top 2.
Which they don't.
Yes,
right.
I think the top 2 on their own personal level.
Yep.
And Echo Fox is like trying to reach it. But for Echo Fox, that's fine. You know, they have a brand new roster with like they only kept Keith and Froggen, right?
Yeah.
And they improved a lot, both in overall teamwork. They understand their roles better. Their jungle is working better with their support. Their AD played a really good series. And their top laner looks great in following up with TPs as well as teamwork plays. And
right.
Froggen's playing great with Acadian.
So it's the middle of the season now. We started from like big groups of 4 and like bottom 6 into a bunch of subgroups of 2 where it's like top 2. Last one, but then, second to last 2, and then the next 2, and then the next 2. And so I think the 3-4 spot is another one that's pretty close. I think TSM looked really bad today, and I think Echo Fox is just like an explosive-ass team where like they will run you over some games because Acadian's just like that much of a monster, and the rest of his team is able to follow up on that kind of play.
And I know that people are going to argue that FlyQuest lost to Echo Fox earlier this split. I mean, that doesn't really...
I think Echo Fox is the team that beats almost anyone in the league on their best day. Like when Echo Fox is playing well, like Acadian fucking kills someone, and Froggen's like following him up into the jungle, and then like Looper's just running around like a madman, and
the game's over.
And like he's dead, and then
he
didn't die. So what's funny to me is he got. Sorry for the tangent here. He played well this week. He had a number of really good ultimates on Jhin. Every time he ulted, they died. He still died all the time too. He was 4-4 on his player of the game. Like everyone else's player of the games, it's like, man, Acadian's 12-1. Holy shit! And then, I don't know. It's just too funny to me.
Overall, they're one of the most improved teams in the league. I like what I'm seeing. I don't think they're consistent enough for me to be like, oh, they're gonna be doing great,
Yeah.
But they deserve the spot they're in.
Yeah, I think they deserve it. I think They're still like a little scary to me, where I feel like they might be a little hot and cold, given that they went 0-2, 2-0,
But
0-2, 2-0.
we're okay to put hot and cold on weekly rankings. Like these are just tentative.
This is not predictive. This is what we saw this week plus a little bit of the previous week. So this week, yeah, Echo Fox looked really good. Quality wins. And the way they won was really good. I saw them making smarter macro plays, which is, I think, is the big reason I'm putting it over TSM. It wasn't just that, oh yeah, the early game's still nuts. It's like, come mid and late game, they can adapt. They can make decisions.
And when you look at their improvement over the rest of the mid-tier teams, who else is doing like good mid-game calls? Like all the teams that we have problems with on the right side, the bottom 5 teams are all struggling with mid-game calls, minus maybe some teams are struggling with like pure inconsistency problems, like TL and CLG.
I mean, I think, yeah. Yeah, mid-game calls can be expanded to like your entire game.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, exactly. Like they're both just struggling with just people dying all over the place and people just playing garbage like here, and it's bad.
Yeah. So there's our power rankings at the end of week 4. We're basically halfway through the season. Halfway point is in the middle.
Is it 9 weeks?
Yeah,
season?
It's 9 weeks, but because the 5th week has the last of the first round of people playing each other.
Oh, half of it. Okay.
Yeah, so we're
almost halfway through the whole
basically season. Halfway through the season. Everyone has one more matchup to get halfway. And I mean, I gotta say, if you showed someone the rankings like this at the start of the season, they would have called you fucking crazy. So, I mean, it's been a really interesting season so far.
Yes, I love. Actually, I like following Echo Fox. I like following FlyQuest.
Yeah,
their improvement has been remarkably good for me. Not just because I'm a fan of them, but because their games are good to watch. I just want to watch good games, dude. Do not make me watch games like Immortals vs Dignitas or games like Envy vs Dig. Like, it's not enjoyable.
Yo, even Dig vs Envy, I watched it. I didn't hate it. Game 1, I hated actually. Game 2. As soon as somebody on Shen started doing stuff, I was like, all right, I'll watch a great Shen play. I'll watch a great Shen play. So, I mean, overall, a lot of these teams in the league, they're good to watch. So, pretty happy overall. Tune in next week, same times, same places. The VODs will be up tomorrow, hopefully around noonish.
Yes, on my YouTube.
On his YouTube channel. Thanks again to Josh for doing production.
This guy.
He's okay.
I was given a reminder to tell everyone to follow the social media for PLT.
At Post League Time on Twitter, and you can find all of our other social media from here.
We're gonna have an ending screen that'll have all the links and stuff.
Yeah, follow me.
Yeah.
So follow us, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you guys.
See ya. I'm so